What I'm about to share with you isn't meant to be understood with your intellect. It's not a logical argument to analyze, nor a beautiful story to listen to passively. It's a whisper to a part of you that you might have forgotten, or that the noise of the world has buried. A part of you who knows. A part that doesn't need proof because it recognizes truth when it feels it. And if you're still here, it's no coincidence. It's never a coincidence. There are silent calls only the soul can hear, and sometimes these calls take the form of a video like this one, or a voice unknown to you that seems to speak exactly to what you've never been able to put into words. Have you ever noticed how certain presences change a room? They aren't necessarily the people who speak the loudest, laugh the most, or draw all the attention. No, sometimes they're those who do nothing spectacular. They enter, sit down, and yet the atmosphere shifts. The silence deepens, conversations slow, a calm settles in. This calm isn't shyness, it's a frequency, an energy, and sometimes it's yours. There are people who don't even realize they shine. They haven't learned to radiate because no one ever told them they had light, so they move through the world trying to blend in, not realizing that even in the shadows they illuminate. Their gaze comforts, their mere presence reassures, and they don't understand why strangers open up to them in a line, or why children spontaneously snuggle up to them. This isn't a coincidence. It's not by chance. It's a vibrational signature. It's hard to live with this gift when no one has explained it to you, when since childhood you felt the atmosphere without anyone naming it for you, when you've sensed sadness behind a smile or anger in a silence. You've grown up with this inner radar, but instead of calling it wisdom, it's often been labeled hypersensitivity. You've been accused of exaggerating, of taking everything too personally, of being too much of something, too calm, too serious, too mysterious, too tired, without any obvious reason. But that reason, it's there. It has always been there. You absorb what others avoid. You carry what overflows in others. And no one ever told you that this was a form of power, an energy. Spiritual power is not loud. It doesn't need a drum to be felt. It works effortlessly, transforms without intention. You may have noticed that conflicts quiet down after you intervene, even if you only say a few words, or that some people avoid you after you cross paths without even knowing why. It's not you they're running from. It's what your energy reveals in them. It's the reflection they see in your silence. And you have tamed that silence. You've even cultivated it. Because in this world that shouts to be noticed, your soul has taught you to listen to what cannot be heard. It has shown you that the greatest power is not to convince but to embody, not to impress but to resonate. And you resonate even if you don't realize it. You resonate when you are authentic, when you don't play a role, when you are simply present. But just being present in a world that demands constant proof of worth is an act of rebellion. It makes you different, and sometimes that difference feels heavy. You have often wondered why you feel so drained after socializing, why certain places give you headaches for no clear reason, why you sleep poorly some nights, even when nothing unusual has happened. It's not your imagination. It's an invisible burden, a resonance between what you perceive and what the world refuses to acknowledge. But you are still here despite everything. Even if you don't yet understand it all, even if you have doubted yourself 1,000 times, even if you've tried to fit in, you have remained a silent anchor in others' storms. And what you carry is rare. It's not a burden, it's a calling, and that calling perhaps is beginning to be heard within you. You've entered a room and felt that something was off even before anyone spoke. You've stepped into a house and sensed a weight in the air, a silent tension, almost suffocating, as if the walls themselves were keeping a secret. Maybe you've never spoken about it because this kind of perception is something we absorb quietly, unnoticed, because it unsettles us. And yet your body already knew. Your breath became shorter, your heart beat a little faster. You sensed it before you understood, even before the facts explained what you had already picked up. You may have been told you were paranoid, too sensitive, too dramatic, and so you learned to keep it all inside. But it never left you. You still pick up on the emotion in a glance that looks away, the lie hidden behind a polite smile, the anger lurking in a handshake that's too firm. What you feel, no one teaches you yet, you just know it. It's like a memory that doesn't come from your brain, but from your heart. When you observe, you're not just seeing, you're feeling. You read the nuance of a name spoken as others read an open book. It's a gift, yes, but it's also a burden, because you feel everything. Even what doesn't belong to you, even what others refuse to feel themselves. And you feel it in your skin, in your stomach, in your sleepless nights. An anxiety without a name, a discomfort without an obvious cause. You carry the echoes of pains that aren't yours. And that's where it gets hard. Because explaining to those around you that you're hurting without any visible injury, that you're exhausted without having run, that you're sad with no clear reason, feels impossible. The world demands tangible reasons, proof, but your soul doesn't need that to know. It knows, like a tree knows when winter is coming, like the ocean senses a storm before the sky does. Do you remember those times when everything seemed fine? On the surface, a normal conversation, a calm atmosphere, smiles, laughter, people, and you inside feeling trapped. Something was wrong and you knew it. Maybe a few days later, a conflict erupted, a secret was revealed, a truth finally came out. But you already knew. That's the price of sensing the invisible. You see the cracks long before the wall collapses. You never really learned how to handle this. In school, they taught you about volcanoes, equations, and world capitals. But no one taught you how to ground yourself when your body picks up on someone else's emotional storm. No one taught you how to say no to energy you didn't choose. So you did what you could. You smiled when you wanted to run away. You comforted others while you were crying inside. You listened even when your silence screamed exhaustion. You may have tried to toughen up to become harder, colder, but it didn't work because your essence can't be faked. Even if you pretend, your soul stays open, like an ear turned toward the world. You are a channel, a kind of living emotional radar, and you've known this all along. You just don't know what to do with it, and that's when exhaustion sets in. This isn't tiredness a coffee can fix. It's a weight on your chest, an inner saturation, as if you're carrying too much. But you are carrying it. You hold what others suppress. You absorb what they project, and sometimes you forget you don't have to carry it all, that you have the right to, not bear everything. But how do you let go of what you can't name? How do you free yourself from an invisible weight? How do you protect yourself without shutting down? These questions sometimes haunt you, yet a part of you already knows the answers because you've experienced moments of clarity. Those times when in a simple silence you found yourself, one afternoon alone, a walk in nature, an exchanged glance without words, a shiver without explanation. It's there every time. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It's a sense, a sixth sense, a direct link to what the world ignores. And if you're here now listening to these words, maybe it's because it's time to stop doubting what you feel. It's time to understand that your body is speaking to you, that your heart is guiding you, that your intuition is a compass, and you don't have to turn it off to be accepted. On the contrary, maybe it's time to listen. Finally, like listening to an old friend you've ignored too long. There are places where you breathe more easily without really knowing why. Moments when silence becomes a caress, suspended instants where nothing tries to change you, judge you, or demand of you. It's in these subtle retreats that your soul rejuvenates, not in the chaos or the constant hustle of the world, but in these bare, pure, almost sacred spaces where you can finally set down what you carry. You've always known it without even putting it into words. Your solitude isn't an escape. It's a necessity, a form of breathing that others don't always understand. They call it isolation. But you know it's a return to yourself. When the noise of the world fades away and you face yourself, there's no role to play, no image to uphold, no effort to appear whole. You are whole even in your flaws, even in your silences. And it's there in that nakedness of the soul that you realize how precious solitude is. You may have felt guilty for seeking it. You might have thought it was a flaw, a weakness, a retreat. Because everything around you values hyperconnectivity, exposure, constant accessibility. But what the world forgets is that some souls, to truly exist, need to withdraw. You are one of them. You've never needed a crowd to feel alive. On the contrary, too many people make you feel invisible. Too many words pull you away from your own inner language. You need space. You need slowness. You need that absence of expectation where you can simply be. Because in that silence, something realigns within you. Almost imperceptibly, a quiet light, an invisible thread, weaves itself back together without saying a word. All that had unraveled without you even realizing. You know what that feels like, don't you? After a day of giving, listening, carrying the emotions of others, you find yourself alone and everything becomes breathable again. It's not absence that heals, it's permission. The permission to not respond, to not smile, to not explain, to not perform. It's in this permission that your energy takes shape again. And sometimes, it's not even a choice, it's a vital need. Others may not understand. They'll say, you're distant, you're closed off, you're always pulling away. But they don't know that you leave in order to return. They don't know that this withdrawal is what allows you to remain whole, that without it, you would fall apart. You stretch in silence like someone piecing together the fragments of a cherished vase. You become yourself slowly, without an audience, without validation, without narration. And in those moments you rediscover yourself. You hear thoughts you had set aside. You feel emotions you had locked away. You touch without any filter the raw truth of your being. And it's not always comfortable, but it is true, authentic, sometimes painful, but never empty. Because in your own gaze there is no lie, no mask. There is only you, and that soft light almost forgotten, just waiting to shine. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. Returning to oneself isn't the whim of a fragile soul. It's a strength, a discipline of a sensitive mind, a way to preserve yourself in a world that keeps pulling you away from yourself. You have this gift. You feel what others silence, but this gift needs a sanctuary. And that sanctuary isn't a place, it's your silence. It's your chosen solitude. It's the sacred space you create for yourself to avoid becoming a lost reflection in the expectations of others. When you are alone, truly alone, without obligation, without forced interaction, there's almost a great inner sigh, an invisible release. Your thoughts slow down, your heart beats differently. You become the witness of your own life, and that's rare, it's precious. Because in this world that imposes a foreign rhythm on you, you finally find your own. And that rhythm is your soul's, not the world's, not urgencies, yours. You have never been ordinary. Even when you tried, even when you bent to habits, norms, expectations, you always felt there was something inside you that didn't fit into the boxes. A kind of different frequency, a truth that pulsed in your silence. A quiet fire no one could quite explain. Maybe you tried to be discreet, not to disturb, to adapt. But despite all those efforts, your energy spoke for you. It preceded your words. It brushed against people without them understanding why they felt so touched, so exposed, so moved. And sometimes they would flee. Not you. What you awakened in them. You noticed it, didn't you? How some people shut down after crossing paths with you. How for no apparent reason they pull away, as if your mere gaze revealed too much. As if you were a mirror too, honest in a world that prefers blurred reflections. You didn't need to speak loudly to be perceived. You didn't need to impose anything. Your silence was enough. Your presence was enough. And for some, it's unbearable because they've never learned to face their own truth. You see, it's not that you make people uncomfortable. It's that in your presence, they can no longer deceive themselves. And that's where your power lies. in what you don't do, in what you don't force. You don't fight to convince others. You don't need to shout to exist. You embody, you resonate, and that vibration, no matter how subtle, has the power to break down walls. Not because it's loud, but because it's real. There's something about your way of being that quiets the world. A gaze that is non-judgmental, a listening ear that seeks no response, a breath that calms without a word. It's not a learned skill. It's not a technique. It's a nature. A deep nature you've carried since childhood and have long tried to hide. Because yes, there were times when you wondered if it was a flaw, if you were the problem, if you were too heavy, too intense, too different. You've even wanted to dim your light a little, making your fire less visible, lowering the volume of your soul to be accepted. But that never works for long, does it? Because every time you try to diminish yourself, something inside you contracts. A kind of silent sorrow and inner distance you feel in your body, your heart, your energy. The truth is, you were never meant to look like everyone else, and it's not arrogance, it's awareness. You were born to embody something else, another way of being, another way of loving, another way of seeing the world. And inevitably that disturbs, because anything that doesn't fit the mold stirs up resistance. But it's not your job to adjust. It's not your role to shrink yourself to fit into a frame that's too small. It's not your responsibility to minimize your soul to soothe others' insecurities. You're here to shine, without excess, without pretense, simply radiating from your being, from your silence, from your gaze. And that radiance, you don't choose it. It chooses you. It reorganizes, it awakens even when you do nothing. But you must recognize it, because as long as you don't acknowledge what you carry, you'll continue to suffer from it. You'll keep absorbing what you didn't bring. You will keep exhausting yourself trying to maintain a peace that isn't truly yours. You will continue to doubt what you already know. But that doubt doesn't protect you. It distances you from yourself. You have the right to be who you are, fully, without filters, without fear. You're not here to save the world. You're here to reveal yourself. And in this revelation, some will heal, others will drift away. And that's perfectly fine. You have nothing to prove. You just need to be, but be fully, with all the intensity that requires, with all the light that demands, because the world needs that light. Even if it doesn't realize it yet, even if it rejects it at first, it needs it. And you already know this. You've entered rooms, and without saying a word, felt the atmosphere change. You saw it in the shoulders that relaxed, in the voices that softened, in those sudden silences that aren't empty, but full. You didn't do anything, yet everything shifted. You may have already heard that since you left, things haven't been the same. You don't know how to respond, because even you don't always understand what you bring, but you carry it, and it radiates. It's not a role, it's not a pose, it's your frequency. It doesn't impose itself. It doesn't force anything, but it touches like music that plays only for those who know how to listen. Those who have cried in secret, who have held on without support, who have felt that invisible weight no one names. It's to them you speak without words. To them you offer your hand, even in silence. You are a center, and centers don't rush. They don't stir. They breathe, they wait, they support, they welcome. Maybe that's why some come to you as if they already know you, as if they're seeking in you a space to finally rest. You never set out to play this role, yet you've always embodied it. You are that calming breath, that gaze that doesn't judge, that presence that allows. And it's not always easy, because not everyone is ready for it. Some run from you, others confront you, not because you cause harm, but because your very existence reminds everyone of what they've lost or what they've refused to face within themselves. Your peace unsettles because it's authentic, because it brings hidden chaos into the light. And this is where your energy becomes almost revolutionary. It doesn't speak yet, it deprograms. It doesn't react, but it reconfigures. You don't need to dominate or persuade. You're not here to accumulate. You're here to vibrate. And your vibration is an alignment between the inside and the outside, a rare harmony, a coherence that many have forgotten. And that's why people remember you, not for what you say, but for what they become when they are with you. They become more genuine, deeper, more alive. Sometimes that frightens them, but often it frees them. You don't need to understand how this works. You don't need to explain yourself. You only need to remember. Remember that you are a bridge between what is visible and what is not, between what people believe they are and who they truly are. You open those passages without meaning to, and in your wake, things adjust, reveal themselves, heal. This demands strength from you, not an external harsh or defensive force, but an internal quiet, profound strength. The kind that lets you stay centered when everything sways around you. The kind that accepts being misunderstood as long as you stay true to what you feel. The kind that doesn't seek to please but to embody. You now know that your energy isn't accidental. It's not an excess. It's not a weakness. It's a presence that is clear, sometimes unnoticed by others. And that is enough. What you are is enough. You don't need to become anything else. You don't need to improve to earn your place. You already have it. So breathe, change nothing. Just come back to yourself. Not to the version the world expects, but to the version your soul calls for, and let it shine softly in shadow and light, no matter what. Because those who need to see you will see you. Those who need to hear you will hear you. And those who need to resonate with you will do so without you having to reach out. You're not here to convince. You're here to remind those who have forgotten that they too have this light within them. And it always begins with a breath, a glance, a presence, yours.